An event's taking place Friday to mark the 100th anniversary of the Boston Foundation and to get more people on board with the Fairmount Indigo Rail Line. To tell us about part of celebration around the rail stop at Uphams Corner are an artist and consultant who's the direct manager of the public art project Lighting the Bridges, Ina Fox, and an artist from Design Studio for Social Intervention and resident manager with the Fairmount Cultural Corridor, Lori Lobenstine. Thank you both very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Glad to be here.
I want to start with Lori because the Boston Foundation decided to celebrate its anniversary on this rail line and saying, what is it about this line that's so important?
The Boston Foundation has done a lot of investment along the line, really recognizing how many of Boston's residents live along the line, how many artists are along the line, how many folks who are immigrants to neighborhoods are along the line. They've supported folks around housing, around the creative economy, around transportation. So it seemed like a natural fit for them to say, when we're celebrating our 100th birthday, let's celebrate this neighborhood that has so many of Boston's residents and so many diverse communities.
You know, as we've had people on our show before saying, you know, if you're anywhere between Fairmount and Uphams Corner, this is as cheap as a rapid transit ride. And yet, a lot of people, they go through the neighborhood, they might not even realize there are trains here. And you're doing something about that, aren't you?
Yes, we are. So through the work, and Lori can talk about it more, but we've been doing design studios, and other partners have been doing creative placemaking work in Uphams Corner, and out of that came this idea for making the bridge feel more safe and more comfortable to walk underneath. And that coincided with the work with the Boston Foundation's 100th anniversary. So out of that came this idea of lighting all the bridges. And so we have permanent lighting installation at Uphams Corner and for temporary bridge lighting at 4 other stops going towards Fairmount and ending in Fairmount. And we do think that the activity around these events and then the events themselves will actually make people more aware of this option of transportation and get people interested also in what they can do to improve their communities.
You know, talk about Uphams Corner, which is where we're going to have the permanent lighting. You know, Dudley Street has a lot more light and activity because of the development there, but there's one exception, and that happens to be right near the station. So how's that going to change? At least as far as the lighting.
Yes. It's going to be a fabulous, I call it sort of like painting the bridge with light. So to address the sort of very practical issue of safety and feeling secure walking under the bridge, the lighting artist John Powell, who has a lot of experience lighting bridges, including at least 4 in Boston. So light is his medium. He'll be, in his lighting installation, there'll be light right under, in the underpass. So that will be on from dusk until dawn. But then he's developed this technique of creating these stencils that project kind of like designs, patterns, images that will blend, and he programs them so they subtly change, so there's color and sort of pattern projected on the 2 faces of the bridge. So that's what people will see from dusk until midnight as they walk towards the bridge from either side.
Lori, what about this a whole approach of infrastructure as public art? I mean, in New York, they got the High Line, you know, and that's a great engine of development too. I mean, is that something you're thinking at least a little bit about here?
I think our thought process really, as we thought about creative placemaking and thinking with people and communities about how they come together in small spaces or public spaces, people talked about this almost as a place of place breaking. Like, oh, we're not going to walk to the Croc because it's too dark to pick up our kids after an after school program, or we're not going to walk up to Uphams Corner because we don't want to walk under. So we felt like in our city, if we pay attention to these, you know, kinds of places that separate communities and find ways to bring them together, like that would really change the feeling of the community. It would change people's ability to access things on either side or even access the train itself. So it was definitely about highlighting and making folks aware of the resource of the train, but also just connecting those communities around the train. And I think to that extent, when we think about parties all along the train on Friday, and people getting on Fairmount, getting on Morton Ave, getting on Talbot, getting on at Geneva, like they're all coming to the Uphams Corner lighting at the end. So it's it's not just about a night of partying, but also like how do folks in these communities start to connect with each other and see that they can get to, visit their uncle in this neighborhood or go shopping in South Bay or get a job in, closer to the Fairmount station. Like how do they start to see themselves as part of a Fairmount cultural corridor versus just, I'm from Uphams or I'm from Hyde Park or whatever, but really to start to see each other as resources and to see the train as a resource.
This is just one thing going on that's really part of a whole concerted campaign to get people involved in public art. In Uphams Corner, you've got the Up Trek going on, and getting people involved that way. Why is it so important to get all these residents involved as opposed to just having a few professional artists come in and do something?
Well, I would say they're both residents and professional artists. So in the sense, and I think it is important, there's so many resources in these communities. There's a lot of cultural richness from artists who are sort of the artists that people think of as artists, whether it's painters, sculptors. There's a Humphrey Street studio. There are a lot of artists there. But they're artists who are creative in other ways, whether it's from, all the art from whether it's spoken word or maybe it's somebody who makes jewelry. And just, I think it's both about highlighting that, all of Boston's neighborhoods, not just the ones that we read about or hear about, let's say on the Globe or the arts pages of the Globe, but there's a richness there that we want to celebrate. And the other thing is supporting those artists. So giving them opportunities to use their art form and their creativity to give back in their community and share with the wider Boston community.
Lori, if people want to at least catch a view of this or take part in some way, what's the best time and place to do that exactly?
Well, depends on what neighborhood they're in or if they want to catch
at least
the
it's
party
for
train.
Uphams Corner, certainly.
Yeah, Uphams Corner party will be from 4:30 to 9. The party train will be leaving the Fairmount line, if you want to see all the parties, at about 6:20 and stopping at each stop along the way to stop for 5 minutes and get more folks onto the party train. There'll be musicians on the train, conductors telling folks about each of the stops, what are some highlights of that neighborhood. There'll be art on the train, and then everyone will get to come to Uphams, and the bridge will actually be lit right about when that train arrives, so it'll be just before 7 o'clock. I would definitely get to Uphams. If you're only going there, I would definitely get there by 6:30 so you don't miss anything exciting.
Thank you both very much, Lori Lobenstine and Ina Fox.
Thank you.
In a moment, we'll hear about the Lighting a Line events in Hyde Park.